What if I told you I have news that will make your blood boil? The entire nation of Egypt is under threat of annihilation. There's an invading force unlike any other that has already conquered most of the known world. And the only thing standing between them and total conquest is one desperate army, a ragtag bunch of soldiers who haven't even been paid in months. Can they pull off a miracle and save not just themselves, but the entire Muslim world? Or will Egypt fall and the Mongols rampage unchecked across Africa, Asia, and Europe? This is the story of the Battle of Ain Jalut, 1260 AD. In a previous episode, we talked about how the Mongols had carved out an empire larger than any in history. But as we said, there was still one major power they hadn't encountered, the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. Now, it might seem odd that Egypt was the last bastion of resistance against the Mongols. After all, they were technically a small and relatively weak state. But keep in mind, this isn't the Egypt of today. Back then, Egypt was seen as the heartland of the Muslim world, the home of its greatest scholars, and the place where Islam began. So when the Mongols got within striking distance of Egypt, it was clear that if they allowed the invaders to slip past, then the entire Islamic world would fall. In short, Egypt was the last hope of the Muslims, and so a huge responsibility fell upon the shoulders of its army. Luckily for the Egyptians, their Sultan, Al-Muzaffar Qutuz, was equal to the task. When he addressed his troops before the battle, he rallied them with a famous shout, "Washington Islamah," which means "End Islam." He then went on to explain that if the army fought bravely and won the day, then the Mongol horde would be turned back and the Muslim world would be saved. But if they ran away or surrendered, then the Mongols would rampage through the Middle East and North Africa, pillaging cities and desecrating holy sites, so it was up to the men of Egypt to stop them. The next day, both armies met in the field near the town of Ain Jalut, and while the Mongols vastly outnumbered the Egyptians, the latter were prepared. They formed their army into a crescent shape, with the elite troops in the center and the regular soldiers along the flanks. Then when the Mongols charged, they held their ground. Once the two armies clashed, the battle was on. As the fighting raged, the Egyptian center held firm, allowing the flanks to maneuver around the battlefield. Soon, these flanking maneuvers began to trap the Mongols, and so the Egyptians pressed their attack. By the end, some 11,000 Mongols lay dead, including many of their nobles. Seeing this massive defeat, the rest of the horde fled the field. In short, Egypt had triumphed over the Mongols. So what's the lesson here? Well, perhaps it's that no matter how powerful your enemy is, if you believe in your cause, then you can overcome any obstacle. After all, Egypt wasn't just some random bar off the beaten path. It was the heartland of an entire civilization. And those who fought to protect it were motivated by the desire to defend everything it stood for. That's why they won, and that's why Egypt will always be the mother of civilizations.